I don't know if you have ever felt this way, but I certainly have. And I've also seen the adverse where you feel like you're being tossed around, you feel like you're being thrown around, you feel like all these things are happening in your environment and you feel like you're stuck or you're stagnant. I have felt that way. I have felt that way. And I've also felt like I can create magic, or I'm in the moment. I'm in the line, the through line. I'm on my way. I've got a vision. I've got a trajectory that I'm on. And nothing is going to stand in the way from me accomplishing that. And if you felt that way before, it is because you were on the line of your path. You were at 100% connected to what it was you wanted to create in the world. And I've experienced that. I've experienced that multiple times. I've also experienced being kind of stuck without motivation, stuck without um, allowing the world to kind of throw me around, allowing the world to be a tornado in some respect where I had no control. But the thing is, when I have control, and it's not necessarily control, it's about how you relate to the things that are happening around you because you're on a trajectory. You have an idea, you have a path, you have a through line project that you are working on that is yours. Now, for me, this started when I was in my late 20s. I was working in entertainment. I wasn't getting the roles that I knew I could get, or I knew that the roles that I was going to do were going to happen later in my career because they were edgier. I needed to be older. I was a young leading man look, but I had this edge to me, or this conflict of look versus what I would do with a character, how I would turn things on their heads. I also had, I had this 180-degree perspective on everything around me. That's what makes me a great artist, whatever medium I'm in, be it acting or directing or writing. I always see things from a multitude of perspectives. Now, I have had the most difficult time in the past year or so streamlining that next thing for myself. But I know it's been merging. I know it's been building inside my soul's ecosystem, and that language has been building to create the through line strategy. Now, the through line, for those of you who are actors or working in script or writing, the through line for a character stems from Stanislavski, and I didn't even do that deliberately. I just knew in my life, if I'm the hero of my story and the character of my story, then I get to have a through line and objective. Now, we go through chapters, we go through part 1, part 2, part 3. Sometimes we go into like, this is a trilogy, right? And I feel like I'm in the second trilogy of my life, or maybe it's like the 50th trilogy of my life. But I also know that what I'm creating inside this transition with AI, with the way the world is getting shaped, how in so many ways we're disconnected from something that is artful and truth in our story, and we're being thrown around. We're allowing ourselves to be thrown around. And when I take inventory of myself, I acknowledge the circumstances in my life, I realize the times when I was in pursuit of something. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there, but I knew where I was going. The first time was creating my one-man show. And then I was able to, no matter what was happening around me, I had this foundation, this thing that I could return to, that it was always mine, that it was an inspiration not only for me. I didn't need anybody else's approval to do it. And when I got other people to sign on to do this thing, it just meant that I was empowering and inspiring other people. Now, there were people along the way that would say, oh, that's never possible, or you can't do that. Even myself, my own ideas, like, I had a great life as a kid. Why would anybody want to come see a one-man show of me telling my life story? But then all of these things started happening, and I wanted to do a one-man show, but I didn't know what I would do it on, or how I would do it. And I did it because I wasn't getting the work I wanted to do as an actor. So I created this, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just knew, and I sketched out the scene, the set, and I just knew, and at some point it was going to happen. And there's a longer story here, but that was my beginning of understanding that this is my power. My power is that I have a thing that is mine, that is pulled from a purpose, a feeling of integrity and something that is mine. Anyway, so along this way, if I didn't book a project or if something happened in my life, I could navigate all that information with a observing, connected, appreciative, absorb what I needed to absorb, detract what I needed to detract, or deflect what I needed to deflect, whether this is people, negative relationships, bad projects, etc. But I was on a through line. This has happened a couple of times in my life. And I was, for about 2 years, I was working on a play that we ended up turning into a film. I'm not going to go into further detail on that, but it got sidetracked. It got derailed. But I was on a trajectory for what I wanted to create for my life that had very minimal effect. I was depressed for a couple of weeks, yes. And it was a big lesson I learned. I absorbed the lesson from that experience that I needed to learn. And then now moving forward, it was a trajectory, and I didn't want to hold on to anything that was negative. I didn't want to hold on to relationships that weren't serving that bigger purpose, that were like that were in a place of low vibration. And we'll talk about emotional scale and all of that stuff too, which I'm just going to mention right now. We can't create from a place of negative vibration. If you're on your emotional scale, you can't create something from depression, uh, revenge. You can't create from a place of jealousy or anger. Now, you might argue against that because there's somebody in office right now that is seemingly able to get there, but what is happening? There's a destruction, right? There's this system that is being moved aside because it's not working. And what are we going to do as a collective? We're going to create something in its stead. We're going to move forward because we have the promise of something and a vision, a collected vision that we can create in this world. That's what the through line strategy is. And so often we get derailed because of life happening. But if we don't have that clear vision, if we don't have that strategy, the thing that we're moving forward to, other people's opinions end up mattering more than your own conviction. The stresses of life, the rejections or the no's become more powerful because you don't have a clear knowingness, or you're starting to doubt your own path forward. The reason why I'm bringing all that up is because this is the through line strategy. That's what this channel is primarily going to be focused on. And it is essential that we all create that for ourselves. Now, if any of this is landing really solid for you, I think we can look at it as a macrocosm and we can look at it as a microcosm. We can look at our through line from the lens of a character in a story. We begin with a character and we go all the way through this through line trajectory of a character's storyline. I was watching Muriel's Wedding the other day. Again, it was a long time ago I saw it. We see this character that's nuanced and rich, and they want something. They want something so magical in their life. They want the feeling of being seen. They want the feeling of being valued. And that's really what this person was seeking, is a feeling of being valued. It's Toni Collette. And this feeling of being heard and seen, a feeling of belonging. Essentially, that's what we're wanting. It's on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it is the project, the strategy, the through line strategy is literally to lock in what it is that you want. And then what happens is we achieve that. We get to a place in our life. I remember being at Cannes, the film festival in France, and seeing the film Embrace the Serpent, and after it was done, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm done. I'm done." Like, I had achieved, and I was in France, and I was on this hill, and after seeing the project, and I was going down to the Mediterranean on the beach. They had all the things lined up, and I was doing these interviews, and I was like, "I'm orchestrating my life. I am orchestrating my life." And I saw the film, and I was like, "I've done. I did it. I accomplished it." Now, I had also felt that way after my one-man show. I've also done that and felt that way at other film festivals where I was in a film and I accomplished something, or did a play where I was accomplished something. I did a play called Bent at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles, and it was magical. It was a magical summer, but by the end of it, I was like, "Okay, I've done that. Now what? Where are we going next?" And it seems like what happens is we accomplish that thing, and then we're like, "Okay, we did that. And now what's the next thing?" So you always get to have the other thing. A person that I know a long time ago, and her name was Wanda. We did an acting class together. This was probably this was very beginning of my acting career when I was in Austin, Texas. We did an acting class together, and she gave me this thing. And Wanda, if you're out there and you ever see this, I just want you to know I have this still. Now it's been torn up because my dog got a hold of it. Actually, a long time ago, a dog, and I've had this thing for like 30 years. I know that's insane, but it's true. So it's a quote by Sydney Smith, and it says, "Whatever you are by nature, keep to it. Never desert your line of talent. Be what nature intended you for, and you will succeed." That right there, I have had this in my life since she gave it to me. And she didn't put her last name on there, so I don't know how to find her. Now, these kinds of events and experiences and people and relationships that have come into my life over the course of since the beginning, when I was an adventurous kid at 19, flying to New York for the first time, flying into New York, well, not for the first time, but as an adult to live there. And the people I met and the observations and the stories I wrote in my journal, I was on a through line. I said in high school, I will live in New York City one day. And I thought it was going to take, and I was with a friend at the college I went to, and she wanted to move with me, and things happened where she couldn't, but I ended up moving to New York, flying there by myself. This was before 9/11, crazy enough. But I had a through line. I had a connected desire. I knew what I wanted, and that through line was established in high school. I knew I would live in New York one day. I knew. And sometimes it felt like it wasn't ever going to be possible. Sometimes it felt like, how? How is this going to happen? Now, I did it again when it was like 2007, and I wrote in my journal, and sure, it's in one of those many boxes of journals that I have. And I wrote down, I will be at the Oscars by 2015. And I was so far away from knowing any A-list anybody, knowing any kind of connection that I thought of to get me to the Oscars by 2016, because it was a dream. Now, say what you will about the Oscars. This is how I interpret award shows. It isn't that the award itself is something. It isn't just the fact that you get to mix and mingle with these amazing creative talents. It's that something you did, that something that you created and had a hand in creating affected so many people that it warranted an accolade, or it warranted something that gained attention. So there's a lot of things that happen on this through line, and that is the program that I'm teaching. So you can join my school. Make sure that it is that you connect with my school community and Substack. Both of those are going to be in the links below. You can check out those. Um, I think it's so important, and the reason why it's so important for me is because I see a collective as a society that has lost its it's so easy to not be able to see the future or have a pinpoint of guidance where you're going and what you want to create for yourself, when you're struggling with finances, when you're struggling with relationships that aren't elevating you, it when you are in the circumstances of struggle and fight and resistance, when you're in those places, and I get it, to acknowledge that you're in those places is important. And then go, why am I still here? Why am I still in this kind of flux of chaos? If that's you, or if you've accomplished something on your through line and you're ready to create the next one and you're trying to find a community that can support and elevate that, join my school community. I'll put the link in my information below. All of that is so important for us individually so that we can be be pursuant to our next big thing. It is possible. I know it's possible. I've done it. I've seen literally today a former student of mine, her name is Blair James, I'm going to throw it out there, posted that she had a article that she had she was in was quoted in the Vanity Fair. She was the costume designer for Obsessions. And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm super, super proud of her. And the quote that she put up there, I don't have this ready. I really want to have it ready, but I'm going to find it real quick. The quote that she put up there, and it's on my school community. I did a little shout out for her. She said, "We all knew when we were making the film that we were making something special, but I don't think any of us could have predicted this outcome. It's really insane." Now, I watch my students progress over the years, and what I experience from her, another former student, Darren Barnett, a colleague of mine, Benjamin Levy, Troy Metcalf, Richard Cabral. And I could give you a list of fantastic artistic, creative people that are out there that are really good people. And the fascinating thing about all of them is that they have integrity. And this was a review she left for me at one point this was in 2020. My first acting teacher, when I moved out to Los Angeles, he not only introduced the art to me, but guided me to it with grace and love. He created a safe, fun, and warm environment for me to grow and find myself in the art. I cannot thank him enough for the guidance, leadership, and mentorship he's shown to me. I know I can always count on Brionne for anything I need. And that is freaking true. I love this girl so much. And I share that because then I saw another quote that she posted. And I can't find it. I should have put it up there. But the thing that we get to recognize is that we aren't always going to be supported in our endeavor. People aren't going to get it. People aren't going to understand what you know in your heart to be true. And if you are, and Blair started off as a dancer, and she took acting classes, and then we had so many amazing kids come through that school. People aren't always going to get it or understand. They're not always going to see what you see. And that has been true for me so many times. And I'm not talking to the artists necessarily that have accomplished it. Please come into the chat and tell me your story. Come into the comment section. Tell me what you created that works, and if this is resonating for you. For the longest time, I didn't know exactly what it was. But when I started teaching in studios in Los Angeles and seeing it work along the way, it was a through line. It was the thing that is yours, that is solidly yours, that no matter what anybody can take away from you, it is yours. All right. So now we are living in a world where we have all these tools available to us. AI, I'm not afraid of AI. I like observing it. I know that we need to have regulations for sure. But I've been listening to these podcasts, and I encourage you to do so as well, where the next evolution, the next place, and this is why as a collective, we need to get on board with a vision of the thing that we want and be in movement forward with that. As a collective, we have a through line. And as individuals, we have through line. As a family unit, you have a through line. Where is it that you're going? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? And let it be. And it's evoked by a feeling. Like, I know there are certain things that I want to accomplish. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there. I don't know exactly where I'm going or where this place that I want to build is physically. I know the feeling that I want it to be. I know I don't want cold. I know I want it close to a community of artists. I know all of that. I know the feeling. I know the vibe. And everything I do now is in the movement towards that. The feelings that I choose to feel. I can choose to be afraid. I can choose to be angry. I can choose to be resentful. I can choose to be all of these things. I can choose those things that sometimes when I wake up in the morning, those are the feelings that I have, and I choose gratitude, which ends up shifting me into positivity. What is it that I want to create? And there's all these other things while you're on your through line that are kind of come in and say, you can't, and I don't get it. And all of these relationships that aren't working, or all these given circumstances that aren't working, begin to fall away because you have created your boundaries. You've created a energy around yourself that is moving in that direction. And along the way, being conscious and open, you're going to find things that are going to fuel your path, and there are going to be obstacles. The question is, how do I use that obstacle as a tool? How do I use the obstacle as a tool? For me, the research that I've been doing with AI and putting it into practice for my ADHD brain and my need for systems, it has helped so much. So I'm using it as a tool. It's not an obstacle. Now, we get to have regulations. Hell yes. But this can take us into a new direction. It can take us into another direction. And this is one thing that and I could probably talk on this next point. I could talk on this forever. But there are people out there with ill intentions that have a through line. They have a commitment to create something that is not necessarily, and well, isn't good. And that's not subjective. That is objectively not good for the greater. And these people, it's not that they lack vision, it's just that they don't have a integral or ethical vision in place. It is fueled, and this is why I can go on this forever. It's fueled by things like the 7 deadly sins, meaning rage, anger, wrath, like it's fueled by greed and the things that you can have a through line that's fueled by those things, or you can have a through line that is fueled by creativity, justice, love, romance, art being something that fuels and makes people feel something. You can't have those feelings, or those are the motivations that take you into a direction. All right. My hubby's watching TV, so I don't know if it's picking up on the microphone. But the important thing here is we as a collective get to create something. Now, I also think that there is a certain group of people that have not had a clear vision in our politics, that for the longest time, I supported the party, but they are not But I've come to find out that they are in cahoots in one way or another with something that isn't further benefiting the greater good. So as collective, we get to lock in what it is that we want to create, a feeling, a vibe, a, a place where we're not in this kind of anger all over the place. Because if we had that, we wouldn't be in this space. We wouldn't be in this space if we had a clear, unified vision as a country that was established by principle, by the hero's motivations. Again, justice, love, progress. Now, okay, so I can go on with that forever, so I will at some point. But for today, just know that this is my old YouTube page, but it is now my main YouTube page. Please subscribe. Please follow along. And if you have comments or suggestions, I'm definitely down for those. There is a book out there called Now Act, which I contributed in. Another volume's coming out. I'm also going to be finalizing the first draft of my book. Well, I might as well live my life coming up. All of that in the adventure that is Brionne and you, and what we can create that's awesome in the world. Okay. Cheers. Make sure you hit that subscribe. We're going places, making something beautiful out of all of this. Much love.